we're joined by our friend Nash Walker from the Reno Aces. Nash, what's happening, buddy? Great to see you.
Good to see you guys. I will not be depositing in the swear jar today. So I'll leave that up to you.
I'll take care of that. I usually contribute to that, but of course, we do appreciate you being here, man. Of course, Nash is a play-by-play broadcaster at just 23 years old. You make me feel absolutely ancient with that.
I'm 24. I'm an old man now.
You're 24 now, yeah. But that's where you got your start, 23. I mean, tell us a little bit about your journey and how it is that you came to be a play-by-play broadcaster at your age.
Yeah, the D-backs, like I remember watching, of course, like I've been into baseball and Major League Baseball since I was little, but I remember watching, like I loved Justin Upton. I loved AJ Pollock. Like I remember those D-backs teams, obviously loved Goldie. I remember following the D-backs, but I never thought, I'm from Minnesota, I never thought I would like work within the org or like close to the D-backs. It never went through my head. But as they say, like in your career, you never know where it's going to take you, and it always works out in the end. So I never saw it actually coming to Reno. I never even heard of Reno, but I got the job last year, and I really have come to just love and like I've become a D-backs fan, and like you guys know how that is, following the team every day and just being in the weeds and feeling like you're a part of it. I've become a D-backs fan in a way that I never thought I would these last 2 years, but it has been such a pleasure to be here.
Nash, you mentioned you're from Minnesota. I don't hear as much of a Minnesotan accent as maybe
I've lived in Reno too long. I've lived in Reno too long now.
My mom is from Minnesota, so I like being around her side of the family. I know what like the most extreme version of a Minnesota accent sounds like. And yeah, you're not quite there. I guess that's okay.
I never want to lose my O's. I'm hoping that I still have my O's a little bit, but I think I've been in Reno too long at this point, which is fine. I'm a Reno resident. I got my Nevada license. We're all set. I'm a Reno resident.
Well, I guess we have to talk about Jordan Lawlar. I mean, he's sort of the big storyline right now with your team down in AAA. Of course, missing the entire season up until yesterday with a ligament tear in his thumb. He came out, had a really, really nice game to get his season started. 3 hits, a double, a home run. What did you see from Jordan Lawlar in his first game back?
It was very similar to when he got called up last year. His first game getting called up to AAA last year, he hit a home run. It was against Las Vegas. I'll never forget it because I remember hearing so much about him, and he was 20 at that time and came up and immediately hit and just looks comfortable. You know, some guys you run into a couple, you know, at AAA and it's a different feel, but with him, he just has looked comfortable since last year at this level. And the D-backs called him up knowing that he was comfortable and that he was going to dominate at this level. And I think that's the expectation now is he just looks like one of the best players in AAA on day one. And that was the expectation coming into the year. We didn't know about the injury until very late in spring training, but I felt that he was going to be one of our best players on opening day, if not the best player on both sides of the ball. And that's what we saw in game one. I think he's just so impressive to come back after that long and get your timing in the first game. And I asked him after about his timing. He said, I felt he feels really good. He feels like he's locked in. Cause I don't know if you guys remember, but last year he got off to a really slow start with Amarillo and then went on an incredible run at AA, which then moved him here and then to the bigs in like a month. But he has come out swinging right away. He looks awesome.
We do know that Torey Lovello the other day did say that there's a good chance that he most likely is just going to be getting reps at shortstop with some reps at third base, but it sounded like the majority of his time would most likely be at shortstop. It seems like a little bit of a crowded field there with the talent that they have. How likely is it, do you see that he plays maybe more third base than Torey might be letting on, or maybe more than we're anticipating to possibly just be available should the Diamondbacks be looking for someone else to play that position?
Yeah, you never know what's needed in the big leagues, and that can always change. When you have someone like Lawlar, who's 21, clearly is a shortstop. I mean, anything you read about him, anything you watch him play, he can play shortstop at a high level. And so I think you may be hesitant to move him off of short because that's where you're going to get 6-7 wins potentially. Not that he couldn't do that at third, but I would hold out on that just because I think he's going to be a plus shortstop in the big leagues. So it makes sense to have him play short here every single day because you have some shortstop prospects who maybe are fringy shortstops. Jordan Lawlar is not a fringy shortstop. I think he is a shortstop, and you know that you're going to get the most value out of those up the middle premium positions. So there's nothing he can't do, right? Like he could move over to third and he could be a plus third baseman too. I think he's going to be a great defender wherever he ends up. But for now, he looks like a plus shortstop defensively.
Another big story in Reno for you guys, Adrian Del Castillo. We've been talking about him pretty much the whole season, and the numbers have just been outstanding pretty much from day one of the year, it feels like. What do you think has been different for Del Castillo this season?
He's been the biggest. I don't want to call him a surprise. It's not like I didn't think that he could do it, but the biggest breakout probably this year by a mile is Adrian Del Castillo. From day one has been raking. Honestly, part of it is he finished last year with us, was a little bit slow at AAA to start. He was below league average and was kind of working through playing time. Honestly, like Hosey was getting time, then Hosey went up. And then, we had PJ Higgins for a while in the middle of the summer last year. The catching spot was more rotating last year. But since day one, he has hit and he's played catcher or DH almost every single day. But he played in Puerto Rico in winter ball, and then he got called early for work with the D-backs in Arizona. He got called in like January to go play before spring training. Then he had a full spring training. He basically never stopped hitting. And I think he just continued to get better throughout the entire winter. And what you've seen from him, he's always been patient. He's always had a good eye at the plate, but he's been so aggressive early in counts, and he's hitting the ball hard. Everything he hits is hard. If you look at expected batted ball numbers in the PCL, it's like Del. Everything is Del Castillo because he hits the ball so hard in your ears. You don't even have to see those expected numbers. You just have to listen, because every time he swings the bat, it is exploding. He's not really striking out. I mean, everything you would want to see from a young hitter, he's doing it. He's holding his own against lefties. He's not striking out. He's drawn more walks lately, but now he's mixing the walks with the power. The biggest thing for me, guys, was on, I think it was Sunday. It was either Saturday or Sunday in Tacoma. They walked him, and it was 2-0. But they walked him. And that was that moment where you had it and you thought to yourself, like, okay, he's the best hitter in this league. And that's how I felt for probably a month now, where it's like, there's nobody better in this league. We've seen everybody now. I follow it on a daily basis. Del Castillo is the best hitter in the PCL right now. And he's getting walked, hitting for power. Now with Lawlar and Del 2-3, scary. It's scary lineup.
Well, how's he doing behind the plate? Because obviously we know that's just as important with a catcher, but I mean, that's something right now that the Diamondbacks, his offense is something they could use. Is he ready potentially to be able to call games at a big league level?
Yeah, they've been pushing him on the bases for sure. He's getting pushed on the bases. We've been really lucky to have Jose and Del, because as you know, Jose Herrera is such a great defensive catcher, and
Absolutely.
Nothing happens on the bases in front of him. I think Del's gotten better behind the plate too. I think there were questions last year about, is he a DH? Is he a catcher? Is he a first baseman? Everything that I've seen this year is he's been really good behind the plate. He has been getting tested, but you're seeing him throw guys out, second, third time in a game. He's just sick of it. He's like, I'm going to throw them out now. They're out at second base. But he has looked solid behind the plate, at the plate, the best hitter in the league. And when you put those two things together, I think he's been the most impactful player on this season, maybe at AAA. Honestly, he's been that good.
Tell me about the PCL, Nash. We hear so much about how hitter friendly it is, and I imagine it makes it more difficult to evaluate hitters, to evaluate pitchers as well, given the elevation in so many of these different places. Do you think that's overblown at all, that narrative, or is it pretty much exactly as we hear pretty much all the time?
Well, and we always hear about Reno, right? Specifically, a place that like it's just hard because guys go down there and all of a sudden they hit 400.
Yeah, I think it's maybe overblown here, although, yes, the air is thin. We're high. We're in elevation. It's 95 degrees this week. The ball was flying last night. The ball does fly here. It flies in Las Vegas. It flies in Albuquerque. It does. But I always lean on, let's compare it to the league average. You may hit 330 in the PCL and your weighted runs created plus is 97. Like, that's just the way that it goes in this league. So I always look at compared to the league average. I like to lean on that. And like someone like Del, I think, is at 140 or 40% better than the league average, which gives you that sense of everybody else is hitting in this league too. How is he doing compared to the rest of the league? And then the other thing too is the expected numbers. I think you have to lean on the expected numbers. And with Del Castillo, again, is a great example. There haven't been cheapies for him. Maybe one or two cheapies, but he's got 26 doubles this year. He's like eating up the gaps as well. So you kind of have to lean on the expected numbers and lean on what you're seeing as well on batted balls. yes, the ball does fly in this league. There's no question about it. But I think you can discern and figure out, like, is this a mirage, or are they hitting the ball hard consistently? And that's the biggest difference.
You hear this, Derek? He's talking about WRC plus and expected stats. Nash, you're my kind of guy.
No,
I
didn't hear that. I just tuned right out once he went into that kind of stuff. No, I completely understand, and it makes sense, especially in a league like that where the park factors are, obviously a big reason why some of those guys have those numbers. But I know one guy that his name has become very popular with Diamondbacks fans is Cristian Mena. I know he had a couple of rough starts lately, but he looked outstanding this season, and at times has looked truly brilliant. I mean, what are your thoughts on the youngster?
Yeah, I think for him, you're seeing growth, but also when you're around him, he just seems so much older than 21. He's so much more mature than that. You read that about him too, but it's true. Like, being around him every day, being on the road, watching him, and I asked him about that too. He said he's always hung around older guys, so he feels older himself. But on the mound, really fascinating from just a baseball lover to watch him. And like, I love pitching. I love the art. I love the battle of a hitter and a pitcher. Mena, his fastball has gotten destroyed this year. It's gotten hit super hard, but it's so fascinating because everything else is plus. The curve is nasty. The slider has been the best slider in the league this year. If you look at, across the board, Mena's slider has been wipeout, which wasn't the case last year when he got called up to AAA. But this year has taken a big step forward with that pitch. He's working through when to throw his fastball, when to use certain pitches and counts. This is such a development time for him. But as an arm, I think D-backs fans should absolutely be excited about the potential for him. I think he's just working through when to throw pitches, when to attack. He told me a couple weeks ago, I want to get outs quicker in counts because he wants to go deeper into games. So he's trying to throw that sinker more, get some ground balls. He's working, tweaking, and getting better every single start. And I think you're seeing him grow from day one here. He can get swings and misses. He said, my strikeout rate is down because I'm trying to get more balls in play to get quicker outs. He wants to go 6. He wants to get into the 7th. And that's the development from a young pitcher.
You mentioned the fastball. That's something we've been tracking for a while. I know the velo, it kind of popped up in spring training. We wondered if, oh my gosh, does Cristian Mena just throw to like 95, 96 now? And that's just who he is. I know that hasn't really carried into the regular season at Reno. Looking at kind of the movement of the pitch, it seems like in terms of the vertical ride and whatnot, that it wouldn't be terrible necessarily. I know the elevation is certainly a factor there as well, where you see pitches have more of that life. Fastballs have more of that life, closer to sea level than at elevation. Do you think it's the velo being a little bit lower, or the life maybe being diminished by the elevation, or just not being there quite as much? Or I guess maybe it could be a command thing. Why do you think the fastball is getting hit like that?
I think it's all of it, Jesse. Honestly, everything you said. I think sometimes his fastball command has waned in starts, and you've seen that. He'll say that too. He'll say it all depends on my fastball command, because if he doesn't have his fastball command, nothing else is really going to play as well as when he's in the zone with his fastball or commanding the pitch. So I think at times it's all of those things you mentioned. I think sometimes it's command, sometimes it's where he's pitching. Are we in Las Vegas? Are we in Tacoma? That's more of a pitcher's park. Those things matter. Another thing with him, and I think you've seen develop throughout this year, if you look at his splits, righties and lefties have hit him really hard. Lefties are hitting a lot of homers. Righties are doing nothing against him. But the change in Oklahoma City, they stack lefties against him in this league too. You'll see 5-6 lefties in a lineup when he's on the mound. And so he's working through that as well. His changeup was nasty in OKC. If that changeup continues to develop, now you're looking at 3 potential plus secondaries. The curveball was already there. The slider is taking a big step forward. And then if he has that change, which is 89-90, that was getting swings and misses, a ton of them in Oklahoma City, now you're really building, and I think that will help his fastball as well. If the changeup continues to take steps forward like it has, you're going to see that fastball get better, I think.
DDLS, DDS, Deyvison De Los Santos, doctor of dental surgery. No, De Los Santos, of course, is a guy that obviously a lot of Diamondbacks fans have known about for a while. We had what happened with the Rule 5 draft, and now ever since he's come back to the organization, he has been a fairly incredible player. Almost feels like a guy like at one point who was a top prospect in this organization, kind of blossoming this year finally. But it also happened after he came back to this organization, which is a great time for it to happen. What have you noticed about him, and what are your thoughts on him kind of maturing here and looking like one of the better players in the Pacific Coast League?
Maturity's the word. I think maturity's the word. In his at bats, though, you're seeing maturity.
Mhm.
Last year, he drew 25 walks all year at Amarillo. He was 125 strikeouts, 25 walks last year.
Whoa.
The biggest thing with him is he drawing more walks? Because if he's drawing walks and he's spitting on pitches, he's going to hit 30 homers. And if he can hit 240, 250, he's going to strike out a lot. That's just the type of hitter he is. He's going to K a lot. He's aggressive. He's a big right-handed slugger. He's going to strike out a lot. But that's okay if he's got a 10% walk rate and he's hitting 240 with 30 home runs. Like, that's a great bat to have in the big leagues. So that's the fine line that he's walking, I think. But you've seen that maturity this year much more, drawing more walks. I think he's almost at 20. I think he's at 19 already, and we're in June on the season. That is super encouraging to see him walk more, see him in these at-bats. Joey Crable, you guys might know him from Baltimore, was in the Orioles bullpen, but he pitched in Tacoma last week, and Deyvison had this at-bat where he just battled against a major league arm in Crable, who's got really good stuff, is right-handed. It's right on right. He's tossing in sliders, trying to get him to chase. Deyvison battled, drew a walk. And he hit 2 home runs in that game too. But Lawlar, our manager, said after, that was the best at-bat of the game, even though he almost totaled 1,000 feet in homers. The best plate appearance was the walk he drew late, because that showed the maturity and the growth that he's had.
Right.
It's so great for him to be seeing these arms too. I mean, he is seeing good, major league arms who've been in the majors this year, who are throwing sliders, throwing fastballs mid to upper 90s from the right side. This is big for him. Like it is for Mena. It's just important to be at this level, I think, for him, and to see that growth. He's only 20. He'll be 21, I think, in a week or two, but he looks really comfortable.
Last thing for me, Nash, it seems like one of the cool things about your job and just about AAA baseball in general is that you get big leaguers there on rehab assignments pretty regularly. Jordan Montgomery, of course, made a couple starts for you guys early in the season before coming up. And I'm also curious specifically about Geraldo Perdomo, who I know is just a handful of games, not a ton of time down in Reno. But what is it like having a guy like that around for a few days? It seems like players here, for sure, we talked about this a lot yesterday, players here, coaches here really seem to value having Perdomo around.
He was with us, I think, for 3 days, and you knew he was there. I mean, he is fantastic. Everything you hear about him, I think, is true. I honestly didn't know a lot about what people say at the big league level about his makeup and his leadership and his energy that I think you and I have heard that they miss in the big leagues. So I honestly didn't know about that. I had never met him before, but he was great. I mean, super, super energetic. Off the field was, like I said, you knew he was there. I mean, you knew he was there. Yeah. The guys love him. I could see why in the majors he's a beloved figure. It was cool to have him. I mean, I said he can stay as long as he needs. But, I'm glad to see him. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad to see him back up there. But he's a character, really, really cool guy. It is fun to be able to meet them and see what they're like, in a baseball environment. It's really cool. He was great.
Jordan Montgomery had a hard time putting into words exactly what it was that Geraldo Perdomo did for him out there last night. But it was, just kind of cheerleading, just encouraging him. And again, I think that sometimes that's not something that your teammates always do, especially with sincerity. And I think Perdomo is just so sincere with his energy and his positivity. And I think it's a bit infectious to be around that guy.
We had I don't know if you guys follow the Aces social media, but we had pick your favorite Jolly Rancher, and Perdomo at the end takes he was the first one, took a whole handful. He says, I love these. I'm like, bro, you can't take the whole bag. We got other people had to pick some. But that is a good example. And then he got on the bus after, and he's eating sweet tarts or something. He just loves the candy. And then I said I was going to bring him some Jolly Ranchers back because I had half a bag left from him taking half the bag. So it's just funny things like that you find out and learn about these guys. But I could see that for sure.
I think we figured out the key to his positivity is sugar, right?
There you go.
Keep them all sugared up. Before we let you go, I did just want to ask you, what's life for a ball player like in Reno? Because a lot of times we get to hear from these guys about getting the call, either getting the meeting with Lolly or getting the phone call or whatever. But a lot of times these conversations involve that they were sitting at a blackjack table or in a casino at the time. Like it's always kind of funny to me to think of a ball player sitting there and essentially hitting the jackpot without actually hitting the jackpot in a casino. Is it a strange life to live in a city like Reno and be an athlete?
People always ask me that too. They're like, I hope you're not at the casinos too much. I think you notice you're here less when you live here. I don't know what it's like for them, like how often they're in there, what that looks like. I'm not in there a whole lot, but I guess from the outside, it seems that way because it's like a mini Vegas. It's the biggest little city. You look downtown, it's like a mini strip. Yeah, it's a mini strip. I prefer ours to Vegas, but yeah, I could see that. I don't know exactly what that's like to get it. I haven't talked to them about getting the call at the blackjack table, but it checks out.
Well, Nash, we appreciate your time so much. Make sure to follow him on Twitter. It's at Nash Walker. You're at Nash Walker 9, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not super active, but I'll retweet you guys. I'll support the show. Yeah.
But more importantly, make sure to catch some Reno Aces game. Make sure to catch him doing the play-by-play. Nash, we appreciate your time so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Good luck.